Reformation was the change that took place religiously. A monk who went by the name of Martin Luther led the Protestant Reformation in the 1500s. The Protestant Reformation is the movement that divided the Western Church into Catholic and Protestant groups. Luther didn't believe it was right to pay for indulgences that supposedly determined what would happen in the afterlife. The more people that learned about their rights based on what Luther preached from the Word of God, the more people started to turn against the Church and find their own way. Luther wrote the Bible in the language of the common people so that others could learn about God on their own. As they gained more wisdom of the Word of God on their own, they began to form new ideas in which others followed. This resulted in new churches and religions, which led to a new era. This new era was called the Renaissance, which means rebirth. The people of Italy believed they had witnessed a rebirth of the ancient Greek and Roman worlds. Political, economical, and social life became the center of their lifestyle. This affected all classes of people from nobles to peasants. Literary works were rewritten in regional languages and became educational as a liberal study. The visuals of paintings, sculptures, and architecture reflected the human-centered world and revived humanism. The use of art inspired the invention of maps and inadequate tools. Maps allowed people to know the general geography and gave them the idea of going out and exploring more land.
Exploration took place because of curiosity, religious purposes, and more resources. In other words, God, glory, and gold. Great names came from the first Europeans to explore new lands such as Vasco da Gama, Christopher Columbus, Ferdinand Magellan, and more. But when these explorers discovered this new land, they unexpectedly came across the other groups of people that had inhabited the land first. These indigenous people were looked at by the explorers as an opportunity. They had resources that the Europeans wanted. Not only did they trade goods, but they spread their religion to indigenous people, which led to a change in culture and thoughts for both groups of people.
The 17th century promoted very different responses from two English political thinkers, Thomas Hobbes and John Locke. Hobbes was alarmed by the revolutionary upheavals of England. He wrote Leviathan, a work on political thought which was published in 1651. Hobbes claimed that before society was organized, human life was solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. John Locke viewed the exercise of political power differently. Unlike Hobbes, Locke believed that before society was organized, humans lived in a state of equal and freedom rather than in a state of war. Locke believed that all humans have certain natural rights, rights with which they were born, including rights to life, liberty, and property. Locke wasn't an advocate of democracy, but his ideas proved important to both the Americans and the French in the 18th century. With these new ideas come questions which leads to the beginning of the scientific revolution. In the Middle Ages, many educated Europeans took great interest in the world around them, which encouraged new ways of thinking. The invention of new instruments like the telescope and microscope made fresh scientific discoveries possible. This was the first time that explorers searched for scientific discoveries instead of wealth and glory. Scientific discoveries expanded knowledge about the universe and the human body, creating new ideas. These ideas caused the people to question the church, which led to enlightenment. The common people were enlightened by the theories of two philosophers, Thomas Hobbes and John Locke. People started thinking for themselves and believing that the power shouldn't be completely in the hands of the church, but should be in the hands of the people, because they were now educated about their rights. The people started to believe that the church was wrong and that they had the freedom to make their own decisions and live the way they wanted. Enlightenment didn't only lead to a shift in power, but it also led to a change in culture, such as music, architecture, literature, and art. As the people began to gain power of their own, wars broke out because of conflicting ideas between different groups of people. The Second Continental Congress set up an army called the Continental Army, led by the one and only George Washington. On July 4th of 1776, the Declaration of Independence was approved, and the American Revolution had begun. After a long and restless 7 years, Great Britain's General Cornwallis surrendered their defeat in the year 1781. The Treaty of Paris was signed, recognizing the independence of the American colonies, thus ending the American Revolution. France contained 3 different estates: the clergy, the nobles, and the laborers, such as peasants and merchants. In the 1700s, the third estate wasn't able to have the same buying rights as the two higher estates due to increased prices in consumer goods. Because of new leaders and ideas in politics, the political revolution was soon over, and the start of the Industrial Revolution had begun. The Industrial Revolution started in the land of Great Britain. Britain had money to invest in factories and new machines where entrepreneurs controlled the industry. Water was one of the ways they used to transport raw materials and finished products. They also had an abundant supply of coal and iron, which was used to build new things such as railroads. Distribution of goods led to expansion, creating new jobs for farm laborers and peasants, ultimately making the economy much better. Because Great Britain wanted to make more of what they made, they needed more resources. Therefore, in order to gain those resources, they needed to gain power over other people, which led to imperialism. Imperialism is the extension of a nation's power over other lands. During the 19th century, many Western powers scrambled for new territories in Southeast Asia and Africa. Western powers controlled most of the governments and their colonies. The imperialism of the late 19th century, called the New Imperialism by some, was different. Earlier, European states had been content, especially in Africa and Asia, to set up a few trading posts where they would carry on trade and perhaps some missionary activity. Westerners began to increase their search for colonies after 1880 because there was a strong economic motive. Capitalist states in the West were looking for both markets and raw materials such as rubber, oil, and tin for their industries. European nation-states were also involved in heated rivalries. They required colonies in order to gain an advantage over their rivals. Imperialism was tied to social Darwinism and racism. Social Darwinists believed that in the struggle between nations, the fit was victorious. Racism is the belief that determines traits and capabilities. Racist beliefs have led to the use of military forces against other nations. This led to the conquering of other nations, causing the world to become metaphorically smaller because the power was in the hands of one people rather than multiple.